Sorry, Jordan. Cheers, bro. Oops, let me just put this on him. Is it on though? Yeah.
Anyway,
What's that, mango?
if there is no organizer, are you okay with that? Yeah? If there is no organizer, we won't even be here. So we constitute in ourselves a specific body form, right? Okay, beautiful, very organized. I mean, when you breathe in air, this air has a lot of components, but we utilize some of it, goes through our lungs, process it,
Yeah, it's like when we
exchange it, use the oxygen, get rid of the carbon dioxide, and
digest food,
food, same thing.
nutrition,
Yeah,
and we get rid of
yeah.
it.
So all of this demonstrates that there is a process built in by
everything makes sense.
something that is intelligent and wise. It's not a product of nothingness and coincidence or chance. So your question about if there was nothing as a creator, God, no God, this world would not make any sense. If there is no God, there should be nothing in existence. Okay. What about many gods? Have you ever driven a car when there are two independent steering wheels? Well, I did when I was learning driving. The driving instructor, do you know that? Some of them have, but they have a clutch or something or brake. Right. Now imagine you have a car made with independent controls on left and right. Both of you in the car, you're not talking to each other anymore. You want to take the car to the north, and you say, no, I'm going to take the car to the south. Where's the car going to go? Nowhere. Because you have independent control of this car. This car is not going to go, if it goes to the north, then you are overpowered by him.
So you're saying if people need to come to...
Now I'm talking about the universe.
Okay.
If the universe was a product of many gods, this universe will be in corruption and chaos and ruin. Imagine one God whose absolute says, rain now. Other God says, no, I want thunder and sunshine, whatever. It's not going to happen. You'll be chaos and corruption and the whole universe will be destroyed. One God says, I don't want this earth. I want to get it destroyed right now. I don't like it. Another God says, I like it. I want it to be here. What's going to happen? Same kind of things. You cannot have more than one absolute being. So polytheism, or belief in more than one God, is something that your heart and your mind will reject. So those people who believe there's more than one God,
can't they, like, how do you say?
if they compromise
together, yeah.
Then they are not absolute. An absolute being doesn't compromise. An absolute
Can't
being.
they be absolute together?
Okay, think about. Okay, let me give you another example. When we're talking about an absolute being, an absolute God has qualities of absolute for everything in terms of qualities: knowledge, power, will, and so on. Imagine now there's two absolute beings and they're all knowledgeable. One of them wants to keep his ideas secret. Can he do that when the other one is all knowledgeable? He can't. He's going to find out because he's all knowledgeable. So you are actually now saying, I cannot keep my ideas secret, meaning I am limited, deficient. I'm being overpowered by something else. I am not absolute. So this is what the Quran actually points to in one of the verses. لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا. Had there been more than one gods, there will be chaos and corruption and ruin. Yeah? So polytheism, or multiple deities or gods, is not something that is rational, intellectual, reasonable, or believable. What is left with then, when there has to be a God, not nothing, there cannot be multiple gods, you are left with the concept of one creator, one absolute being. They're not many creators or a concept. How many more? There are not many concepts which are like this. So you're talking about monotheistic religions or belief systems. And these are like mainly Judaism, Christianity in some way, and Islam in the purest form. Okay? So we Muslims say, from the very beginning, when man was placed on this earth, there has always been this one religion, one ideology, which is believing in and submitting to the one absolute creator. The same creator guided people at multiple times and places with the same message. But what went wrong is this: people started moving away from this message and making up their own, corrupting it. Imagine the message says,
different interpretations and stuff.
imagine the message was, be just, don't steal. And there was guys who are in power, he says, but we want to be more powerful. I want to loot and get all this wealth. And they said the only way I can do that is by somehow changing the scripture, this message of God, and saying, it's okay, you know what? If you loot other people other than your own tribe or your own nation or your own country, it's okay. This is how corruption comes in the scripture. And we find this in quite a few religions where it's saying it's okay to be with this behavior with the goyim, the Gentiles. You've heard of the word Gentiles and goyim?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay.
What's that?
So you have a religious tradition like the Jewish people. They're the Jews, the chosen one of God, and everyone else is the Gentiles, the goyims. You treat them differently than you treat yourselves.
Second class. So
Not necessarily, but
people
treat
who are
differently.
not religious.
No, people who are not born Jew.
Oh.
They have the way you treat them. Like for example, as a Jew, you cannot charge interest and usury because that's coming from greed. Imagine I want to build a house. I don't have money. You're rich, so I go to get money from you. You gave me £50,000, and then you say, look, give me £100,000 back. Why? You have no problem in your deficiency in money. You are so rich. Even if I did not give the money back to you, it's not going to decrease your wealth. And I was in need. You, from your compassion, because you're a compassionate human being, gave me, okay, fine, give me your money back, 1 year later. But demanding give me, on top of that, another £50,000, that's greed. Interest is actually this, where you charge extra based on this greed. So in Islam it's absolutely forbidden. In Judaism, you cannot charge interest to another Jew, but to a non-Jew you can. Do you see where the problem starts? Because when you treat people differently with this kind of things, this is where I'm saying in the past, the scripture eventually gets corrupted like this, where people have moving away from the real essence of the message that God gave for everyone, and you have it for your own self, your own tribe, your own family, and for everyone else that's different. So as time went by, people changed this message, and then they introduced the ideas of different things, and that's why you have so many different religions. But if you were to really deeply ponder on the roots of the religion, even in Hinduism that we talked about right now, that they are polytheistic. If you go to the scripture, it says Ekang Ishar Ditya Nasti. There is one God and not two. It's there. It's still there. It's still something that you can decipher, and you can actually, what's this called? Extract from this, layers and layers of distortion. There is this core message that there's only one God. So polytheism or multiple belief system arose because people went away from the original message of God and they corrupted it. God, our creator, he isn't someone who just leaves people astray and do whatever you want. He sends another prophet and another messenger, even to the same nation. That's why we are told in the Quran that God does not punish anyone, meaning he doesn't require anyone of what they're doing until and unless he sends a prophet or a messenger. Because that's only just. Imagine now the police comes along just over there and says, puts handcuff on, arrest, you have committed the crime punishable by death because you are speaking in Speaker's Corner. They can't do that because there is no law preceding this. If there was a law, they have to make it clear that speaking in Speaker's Corner is a crime punishable by death. We were not aware of it. They didn't make it known. So God does not account people for what they do until he tells them what they're supposed to do. That's why the prophets and messengers comes and tells us, this is what you should do. Be good and kind and compassionate and merciful and just. Don't be greedy, don't deceive, don't cheat, don't lie, don't rape, don't murder. The do's and don'ts. And many of these do's and don'ts, as you alluded to earlier, is something that is common to everyone. Why? Because that was the message that got sent to everyone. It's still there. It's still there.
So can I just say, so what we were talking about is So we were saying that the guy over here was saying he was talking about
Christianity.
Christianity and why
They are wrong.
yeah, they're wrong and I'm right, basically. So what I was saying is, so you're talking about all creationism and God and stuff.
Yeah.
The thing is, no one. We can say everyone has their own opinion and stuff, but no one knows for a fact.
That's what I.
No one knows for a fact what is the truth of creation. Because this has happened where people are living today. This has happened so many years ago. No one knows this for a fact. So for all these people, they're just following their beliefs and their religion, and they're following
Their truth.
They're following their truth based on what's happened to them in their life and what's like the impacts of the world.
So basically, saying, how do we know it's the truth? How do we know?
Not necessarily. I'm just saying for the gentleman over here that was talking about, I'm wrong, you're right. My religion is wrong, your religion is right. I personally think that's something that shouldn't be done, because religion, as all base religions, yes, like as you said, like people misinterpret stuff and try to twist religions and use it in bad ways and stuff. But at their base and at their foundation, all the purpose of all religions is good and is to help people live a better life and help people do good. So I personally think you shouldn't tell someone I'm right and you're wrong. Just do you know what I mean? Like,
Just to address this point, yeah. So it seems logical in a way what you said, but we need to think, deeply enough. And this is what Islam demands us to be: critical thinkers, deep reflection on our own self, on our universe around us, and then we will easy for us to come to the right conclusions. So, as I said, the Islamic model or the understanding of religion is this: there has always been one way of life acceptable to God, only one way, and that has been from the very beginning to the very last of the Prophet and Messenger. What has happened throughout this time is people have changed it into different forms. So our role of the mind is to find out the uncorrupted form, if it exists, which we say it does, from the corruption. So what are the signs of corruption is what we should be asking. Okay? So there are various ways of looking at it. You can study every single religion, which are monotheistic, or you can start with one and go one by other, depending on how much time you have. Okay? So when people say we have no right to judge others, that's true, but we still have to decipher the truth from all this around us. And there can only be one truth, not conflicting truth. If God is one, think about it. Okay? If God is one, and He alone is to be thanked for, to be glorified and praised, that's worshipping, yeah? And then in one religion it says, I have a son, worship him too. Or I have a wife, worship her too. Or if you worship my wife or my daughter or my son, I'm going to put you into hellfire forever and forever. And another religion
wasn't so you said about like prophets and stuff. You should only follow if there's a prophet.
So
isn't Jesus?
In Islam, Jesus is a prophet.
And in Christianity, what?
He is Son of God.
By the way,
God.
I'm not a practicing Christian, so I don't know all my
We can all learn from each other. That's the whole idea. So in Christianity, he's considered to be a son of God and elevated also to God. Okay, that's why many people, they will not say he's son of God, they will say he's God. If you press them too hard, he says he's son of God, and there is a father of God. Okay, God the Father.
He's the human.
He's God in flesh. They say.
He's just bringing God in flesh.
They say he's God in flesh. Okay, so we will just address this point, but at least we have an understanding that there's ways of finding out the truth, because if there are conflicting concept of God, you know very well, they cannot all be the truth. God has a son, you should worship him too, and God has no son. If you worship God having a son, you're going to go to hell. Two different contrasting concept and message. They both cannot be true. They're mutually exclusive. So that's why we need to understand how do we then filter this. Okay? One way of this is by looking at the very concept itself of God, and also the revelation. Because the revelation of God, or the scripture, the book that God sends to guide people, because how did God guide people throughout times? the various levels of guidance. In our understanding, God guides people even without sending prophet and messengers by the intellect, by showing them guidance within themselves. Okay? To give you an example, imagine there is an idol worshipper who has made a statue, an idol of some kind, and is meditating and worshipping that God, or worshipping God through this statue. During that meditation, a dog came, lifted one of his legs and urinated on the idol, and it broke the meditation of the worshipper, the individual. And he said, how could this dog do that? He started trying to grab this dog to punish it. The dog started running. He ran after the dog. As he was running after the dog, it clicked suddenly on his head. Hang on. If I'm worshipping a God who can't even stop himself from defiling by a dog, I'm worshipping a God who cannot even protect itself from defilement, being urinated upon. How can that even be God?
But the thing is, animals, humans, we all have free will. So I think you're...
No, I'm not talking about the animal. I'm talking about, he's thinking about God.
Yeah.
The God he's worshipping
So
has no power itself, an idol, to be protected from urination by a dog. That click, that spark was the guidance for that individual, that gentleman or woman. Because that point, he should have realized that this is not God, cannot be God. I'm worshipping the wrong understanding of God. God cannot be my idol that I've formulated. Exactly. So you see, there was no book, there was no prophet or a messenger was needed. God can directly guide people to this kind of moments in life. God also gives us a foolproof method of guidance, and that is through raising up a prophet or a messenger from among the people who they know to be trustworthy, truthful, righteous, upright, sincere, so that when this individual brings them the guidance, they are easy to accept it. They are ready to accept